Hello! Hello, everyone. Apologies for the somewhat late start. Today's just been a bit of a hectic day for personal reasons that I'm not going to go into, but it's safe to say there's a couple people who already know what went on today. But otherwise, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. And it is good to get on with some painting, definitely. I've been getting a little bit excited to paint a couple of bits and pieces, but I have decided just to shift focus ever so slightly because I was getting a little bit too wrapped up in doing the OC arcs, and they're pretty much almost done. So I just fancied a little bit of a break from a little bit of a palette cleanser. I'll probably either come back to them later, or I might come back to them in my own time, away from the stream. Though I am trying to gather footage of them for some purposes coming a little bit later down the line. Also, I have a full set of teeth, and it's weird to see that at long last on camera. But yeah, it's good. I feel a lot less self-conscious about my appearance now, which is fantastic. Baby steps and all that. We don't really have too much to announce today at the moment. We are slowly but surely working on our 3D print store. That's gonna go live sort of within the next couple of weeks. We just need to sort a couple of bits and pieces out, more logistics wise than anything else, and then we'll be pretty much good to go. I might try and knock up some promotional materials for it, but otherwise, yeah, we're pretty much on track with that. And I'm quite excited to start getting to use it for my own personal purposes as well, which is quite nice. Some of which you might see on this channel, some of which potentially not, just because I don't want to step on Games Workshop's toes somewhat. But as I say, I will be making it very clear when I'm painting up what effectively amounts to proxies for existing Games Workshop models. This is not one of those. Today we're actually going to be working on actual Games Workshop models. And trying to sort out a little bit of an issue that I've been having lately. And I'm not the only one with this problem. So I'm going to nip into Orky's Discord pretty much to get the bare gist of this, because yeah, Gratag, who has been a bit of a friend of the channel and has followed me ever since I first appeared at some meetups on Orky's side, put it pretty much spot on. The problem that himself, myself, and a few other people are having at the moment with Warhammer. In the sense of, to sort of paraphrase it, we all feel a bit like hobby butterflies, and it's frustrating. Like, it's hard to get excited for a single project. Like, I'm having a heck of a whale of a time working on Vashtor. I've had a really good time working on my OC arcs, and I'm excited to see that full army, like, on the tabletop and being used. I'm kind of excited to get these painted up as a possibility, because I've been very kind of Salamander curious for quite some time now, and I feel like they might be the army I put a bit of a force together for 10th edition. But that being the problem is, 10th's coming around the corner, and we don't know what an army's going to look like. I've been focusing on trying to gather together like 1,000-point armies in the factions I'm the most interested in. But because we're not sure what an army formation is going to look like, it makes it very hard to actually decide what to paint and how. Not to mention, one of my goals was to finally get my 1,000 points worth of mechanized Death Guard painted and ready. But what we've seen of the Death Guard previews, the rules are pretty meh. They're pretty lackluster, and that's disappointing. Another problem is that we don't have any games planned. There are a few people whose painting motivation revolves around getting stuff painted for games that they play, and when they don't have any plans, they start to lose focus. I've got to admit, I didn't think I fell down this route myself until I actually stopped and realised the time when I had the most amount of focus for what I was painting was when I had some tournaments lined up for 9th edition that I was going to put my Flesh Tearers forward for. Wanting to get my 2,000 point army of Thousand Suns finished, which I've succeeded. Like, I'm happy with that. There's like maybe 1 or 2 models I might still paint for it just for funsies, but I'm happy with that army as it is. It's done, basically. And my Osiarchs, they were originally painted because I was going to be entering a 1,000 point sort of beginner-friendly Age of Sigmar event that never ended up happening. And I don't know if there are any other Age of Sigmar games happening in my local area, so that's kind of why I've been feeling a little bit stale painting models for that. Another point is we are seeing a lot of negativity around Warhammer at the moment, which, yeah, it's not probably any worse than it normally is, but it seems to be occurring on an almost daily basis now, and that does kind of put the dampener on it a little bit. And then there's decision paralysis, which is probably the biggest point here, and I'll literally read what Gratag put word for word here. I have loads to paint, I have no pressure to get it done, and no order I need to paint it in. The freedom is suffocating. And I think that's kind of hits the nail on the head there. The freedom is suffocating. And it really is. That's how I've kind of like jumped over to painting salamanders for tonight. Just as a nice little distraction. But to be honest with you, I could have easily picked up some Emperor's Children and painted those. Or any of my Necromunda gangs and painted those. Or any of my Death Guard and painted those. And I can paint any of them. But there's no pressure to. And there's no specific order I need to paint any of them in. And it just kind of makes me feel, well, what? I'm kind of in a bit of a unique position, though. Being a Twitch streamer with a Patreon, subtle plug there, I am kind of going to be using those resources at my disposal to kind of go, here's stuff I've got to paint. What would you like to see me paint out of this collection? So I do have a couple of bits and pieces that I'm going to work on as a priority pretty soon. But I have said as well, I'm putting a lot of focus away from my Patreon while I rework some of the tiers. But that's still going to be involved as part of that process. So it's just like, at the moment, what do? Do I just paint stuff because I feel like it? I suppose. I want to say kind of where's the fun in that, but I suppose the fun is in the process itself. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to crack in. I'm just going to crack on with some painting and go from there. Like, I came on here to have some fun. I didn't come on here to whinge, so yeah. Let's just get on into it. I do have a couple of things I want to share, though, which is quite fun. You're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek on the main project we've been working on streams lately, so bear with me a second. So, as we all know, for Massive Mondays, I've been working on Vashtor the Archivane. And last Monday just gone, this week, we got all the base coats done on him, and slathered him in a big oil wash, yeah? I decided to test out actually removing the layers of oil paint yesterday, just to make sure it was going to work and it wasn't going to screw up the model or anything like that. And I actually had to stop myself from just doing all of it off screen because I was having so much fun. But I did at least manage to get bits of it done. So you're going to see a bit of a sneak peek as to how that looks, because I've not even shared that on Instagram yet. But also what the whole model's going to look like once we've finished dealing with the oil wash. So this is the model as is. But what I've mostly done is I've taken away the layers of oil paint on the left-hand side. So the wing and the left arm here. We've gone and removed the oil wash off that. And you can see the difference. And oh my god, have I fallen in love with this as a technique. Like, I know it's quite well regarded amongst other mini painters. But it's a whole... Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. A little tip of his claw broken off. Oh well. Not that noticeable, I don't think, maybe. That's what he gets for being so bloody spindly, I suppose. But yeah, I have somewhat fallen in love with this as a technique, which is kind of nice. And it's a whole different kettle of fish actually seeing it versus just sort of hearing about it and so seeing other people do it. Like, you kind of have to try the results out for yourself to really appreciate the full effect it gives. But yeah, safe to say, really enjoyed doing it, really enjoying the results you get with it, to the point where I went ahead and actually knocked up a whole bunch of my own oil washes yesterday in a whole bunch of different colors that I typically tend to use. So yeah, I'm excited. You can see, like, over time it separates. You got the pigment settling at the bottom. Meanwhile, the thinners sort of sits mostly in the top. That's easy. Just give it a quick shake, and it's all back together in one. Like, that's the easiest thing I've ever used. It's so good. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get to use them. You actually see, like, the way some of the pigments cut at the bottom. You can kind of see some of the mixture of, like, different paints I've used. What I might do as well is I might actually write up a little guide as to how to do this and stick it up on my Patreon. So yeah, maybe that's a reason to go ahead and subscribe to it. Hi Ember, how you doing? But yeah, a little bit of a sneak peek at a few things. Also, along that same kind of lines, the first of the painting handles that our dear Ember is actually working on. And it's quite good. It's pretty good. A few kinks to work out, but she'll get there in the end. But yeah, we're going to be using this for some of the models that we're going to be working on tonight. Good, just doing business things. Nice. I love it. Glad to hear it. So yeah, right, okay. I think first things first. First things first, we're going to base coat all of the armor on all apart from one, because I'm setting one of them aside to try something out with. But of two of this squad, we're gonna be painting up tonight on stream. So we're gonna get a couple of drops of Warp Lightning. Now, when I did this at Warhammer Fest, I used Karandras Green as the contrast paint base. Actually, I kind of torn as to which way around I prefer this, genuinely. But yeah. Like, that sits quite nicely, so does that. Choices. Anyway. Yeah, when I was painting this at Warhammer Fest, I used Karandras Green as the oil paint. Sorry, contrast paint. And that seemed to work quite nicely. I don't have any of that at the moment, but I do have Warp Lightning. And all this is at the moment is just black primer. I used some phthalo green chimera paint over the top, and then zenithal highlighted with some white ink. But we're just going to do a quick slap chop over the top of it all with the Warp Lightning. So we're just going to take our contrast paint and we're just going to coat everything that's going to be green with it for now. And that's going to give us base coats, shading, and a little bit of highlighting just to start with. And to be honest with you, this is a good way of just getting it battle ready if we wanted to. Like, we could do this, do some very basic highlights on it, and then that would be that. That's that job done. I am going to take it a couple of steps further, though. Now, I did my original test Salamander model with a green helmet. I don't remember if that's, canonically speaking, what they're supposed to have, though. Something tells me I think that the helmets might actually be black. Or is that just on like some of the elite units? I found some quite nice STL files for like some specific Primaris designed models that I'm probably going to be 3D printing off because I really like how they've came out. Which again, you might see on the channel, but I don't quite know yet. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing green helmets. Just trying to be careful to make sure the contrast paint doesn't just dry on my brush. Just going to use this as a means to get into all those nooks and crannies. But yeah, I think for like a lighter green, Carandra green works really, really well. For like a much darker base coat, though, I think I like this. I think I like this better. I think this is going to give us some nice, interesting contrast between our lights and our darks, definitely. But yeah, I picked these models specifically because they're going to be kind of like the main center point of this army if I do end up putting it together. Which, again, I know everything kind of hinges on what certain models and data sheets are going to look like in 10th, but generally speaking, I don't think you can go too far wrong with aggressors, especially flamestorm aggressors instead of the bulletstorm ones. Bulletstorm ones are good, but flamey boys definitely lots and lots of flamey boys. I think this is going to be the key challenge about trying to do it in this particular way, is making sure that everything is sufficiently covered. At least as far as base coats and everything are concerned. Alright, I think we'll pop our sergeant over there. There we go. And yeah, doing that Zenithal Prime over the top to start off like a bit of a quick slap chop method to it, that's really, really helped. Definitely. I'm thinking actually with the Sergeant, I might do the Sergeant's helmet in black. Just as a sort of like further level of separation between the Sergeant and his other battle brothers. There we go. And I've kind of undecided as to whether or not I'm going to go over this with a second coat. Of the Warp Lightning. I feel like I might not necessarily need it. Like, you absolutely could, if you really wanted to enrich and deepen the colours. I'm not entirely certain it's necessary, though. I feel like so long as you got coverage, your first initial coat is pretty much all you would really need. There we go. Feel like we've got everywhere with it. So I'm just going to quickly return back to the first model and see how we are with that. Because most of that should have dried by now. And yeah, I feel pretty happy with that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see how the other one dries and go from there. Right, what I'll do now in which case then is I'll take some dark green. And I'll just work over the flat parts of the armor. All of those flat armor panels. That way we leave this color in the recesses. And it gives us a nice smooth base coat to work with. And it's just, for the purposes of doing layers, it's just going to make things a little bit easier for us. Just gives us a little bit of a more consistent finish across the model. It's mostly just trying to get a nice smooth coat over the top of all this, and even then, I'm not 100% certain this is absolutely necessary. You could probably get it without doing this step at all, and you probably still get pretty consistent results. I'm just finding it gives us a nice smooth coat to work with for the layers that we're going to put over the top of it. Especially where things like these larger flat surfaces are concerned. Because it's no secret that contrast paint tends to give a pretty strange finish over large flat surfaces. It's not really typically designed for them. It's more designed for fine detail or areas where there is a lot of fine detail and a lot of varied textures. Otherwise you get this kind of coffee staining effect. So even for the most part, I'm mostly just working on getting this onto the larger flat surfaces just to get an even coverage across everything. It just helps make up for areas where the contrast paint kind of falls short a little bit. Okay. No, we're not quite in that position yet with the other one, only because that's still a bit wet in places. So what I'll do is I'll double check and hit a few of the places on this one where some of the coverage is just off slightly. Oh, thank you, Ember. It's much appreciated. I'm going to move down to a smaller brush now. Now I'm thinking I want to keep to that sort of bright green spectrum. So we're going to get some lime green by Vallejo Model Colors. And I'm going to create a little bit of a mid-tone by mixing a bit of each of these two together. So you get a colour that's not quite as extreme versus one that very much is. Right. And now we get all the joys of trying to figure out exactly where our highlights are going to be if we do this in a non-metallic metal style, which is kind of the way I tend to do these things. Or rather, has sort of become my more preferred style over the years of doing this. So let's have a think about where the highlights are falling on it. Yeah, I think you can probably get away with adding a little bit more water into it, just because this paint's having a bit of a hard time staying moist. Seems to want to dry out very quickly. I can't quite tell if that's just the nature of the paint I'm working with, or if it's down to the sort of humidity of the room, as it were. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do this particular layer is I'm just going to take it a little bit above halfway across each of those areas, like so. Just going to go for a quick second coat with them. Again, just to smooth out those brush strokes. Just like that. And it's the same with the other bits, picking out where the brightest highlights are going to be, taking it from that point and running it across to over halfway, like so. And when it comes to these more circular areas, we just want to treat it as though it were a circle and take these points here as extensions of the highlights of that shape. And it's the same with this area up here. Again, you treat those bits as just extensions of those highlights. And generally speaking, with sections that overlap each other, you kind of want the highlights to follow the same pattern. So where this one stops here, the one above it will stop in the same place, one above that will stop in the same place, one above that will stop in the same place. It's the same with this bit here, because it curves around the top of the leg. It still gets treated like a cylindrical object, so we treat highlighting it much the same way. This is where you'll see a bit of a key difference. This acts more like a flat plane, so you highlight it as though it were a flat plane. So you just take a corner, ideally the bottom corner, work your highlights halfway up it. These areas, it's just a case of going back over those layers with a little more paint. If the finish still isn't quite as smooth as we want it. So for the most part, just to get to treating it as you would, say, when drawing a sketch, you break it down into a series of simple geometric shapes. And then your light and shadow interacts with the object as it would with other objects of that same shape. Because some shapes are going to be easier to break down than others. Like your segmented finger armor here is just a series of cylinders stacked on top of each other at different orientations. So the principle of highlighting them is pretty much the same. Things like this here is where the delineation between different shapes becomes a little less clear. And if needs be, you can always turn and reorient the model until you get the desired shape you're trying to emulate. Now what we might need to do is we might need to apply the subtlest of pin washes into some of these deeper, darker recesses once we're done with this stage. But that's something we can worry about later. For now, we just follow the process as we have done up to this point. Meanwhile, trying to keep in mind where our zenithal highlighting has established the darkest darks and the brightest brights to be on the model. That's another kind of key challenge to try and balance as well. And this little elbow armor here, this is again where geometry starts being a little deceptive. You would think, oh, it's a cylindrical object, so therefore you highlight it like a cylindrical object. That's not the case. It's actually two cones stacked on top of each other, pointing in opposite directions. So you highlight it as though it were cones, in which case it's a triangle. Same again, you think, oh, round cylindrical object, a round spherical object. Not the case, it's actually more like a flat plane. That just so happens to be cut in the shape of a circle. So in which case it's more of a diagonal highlight. Then it pretty much is the case of following the same process across all of the surfaces of the model. That's why these kinds of Space Marines are great for practicing these kinds of techniques, because you can just break them down into some very simple shapes. Now, if I were doing flat surfaces, picking the bottom right corner seems to be the most satisfying, as it were, to fit your highlights. This hood here is where things get interesting, because it's kind of like a segmented ball. So the best thing you can really do is just highlight it like one, which is a little tricky, to say the least. Like, this is kind of where Google becomes your best friend, really. There, I think that actually works a lot better for working in that area. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to correct a little bit. I'm going to go back into some of the dark green. And I'm going to work this in between these areas here and here. And that resets it back to that darker base color. There we are. We're getting there. We're getting ourselves a marine with a lot of depth to him. And once we've got these layers established, we can go back in and neaten them up a little bit, give them a little bit of better coverage. Just generally smarten them up a bit. There we are. I'm deliberately leaving this knee pad here blank because I'm actually tempted to paint that in black. Now I know that's not really part of their heraldry. But there's something about it I just think looks nice if you do it that way. Because we can include like company numbers and such on them. There we go. As I say again, it's just a case of neatening up some of these layers. Right, what we can do now, we can work up a step. We'll work up into the lime green. And what we'll do with this is we'll pick the edge of each of these areas, pull the highlights to about halfway in. Generally speaking, you want to place the brightest highlights right next to the darkest areas. So in this case, we've got a nice dark shadowy bit down there. We pull this up right to the edge of it, and then about halfway into where our original layer stops, like so. So in the case of this layer here, we probably want it to stop about halfway across the shin there, like so. And again, you want to keep where each highlight ends roughly perpendicular to each other. And that does mean you can end up with more than one bright point of light, which is totally normal because light tends to bounce around objects. And again, it's all about trying to stay relatively consistent. Consistency is key. You do just have to be a bit careful, because if you get a highlight in the wrong place, it can just look a little weird, a little unnatural. Oh, thank you for the raid there, Garth's Workshop. How are you doing? Welcome indeed to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Welcome, Raiders. I am Eldritch Sophie, and I'm currently painting up Salamander. Nothing special, just a salamander. How was your stream? What were you getting up to? Man of the Sally chapter. Looks alright. Thanks, I appreciate it. Stream is decent though. So a lot of things models. Did I use an airbrush on it at all? Yes, kind of, just to get the base coats down. So use an airbrush just to prime it in black. Did an undercoat of this stuff, Phthalo Green by Chimera Colors, and then a zenithal highlight over the top with some white ink, and that was it. Everything else has been done by brush. Need to get on the airbrush buzz. Yes, you definitely do. If nothing else, it just makes priming and base coating so much easier. Like, that in and of itself kind of makes it worth it. And that's without even getting into all the fancy things you can do, like OSLs and such. I mean, I did for the longest time as well. There's no harm in it. None whatsoever. It just makes things take longer. And unless you're not quite so fussed about filling your living space with spray paint fumes, it just means that priming is kind of left reliant to good old British weather as to whether or not you can actually get anything done half the time. Speaking of long, been on Twitch too long now, gonna need to decompress. No problem, Garth. Thank you for stopping by. Don't think any of my mods are around, so I'll just give you a quick shout out myself. If you aren't already following Garth's Workshop, definitely go do that. He is an absolute gent. Salt of the earth he is. And I don't say that lightly. You too, fella. I hope you have a good rest of your night. See, I'm already of the opinion I've possibly put the highlights here and the thumb in the wrong place, but you know, if that is the case, doesn't matter, we'll just go with it. Oh god, I really need to update that link. Never mind. Might have to go back to my reference image for the highlights on the top of the head there. Not super convinced by that, but I think I can make it work still. There we go. I feel pretty good about that. There we are. We'll edge highlight just this line here again, just to show the way light is bouncing from one section to the other. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky, because I realise now I didn't actually bother to do much with this area, which was entirely my own fault, but hey ho. Little bit of water just to thin that back down again. So a nice smooth paint to work with here. Because what you effectively got is a bit of an L shape with the highlights there. We'll just treat it as such. Just turn this into a bit of a crescent moon here. So you know the idea of light flowing across a rounded flat surface. Rounded flat surface. I think that made a massive amount of sense in my head now that I think about it. Either way. And again, just letting these height lines follow perpendicular to each other. Just got this foot down here to do. There we are. I'll probably end up doing these bits down here a different colour anyway, so I'm not going to worry... Whoops. I'm not going to worry too much about those. Right. I think for the final point of highlights... we're going to go all the way up to some livery green. And we'll let these be our brightest highlights. So I'll pop down to a even smaller brush. A little bit of water, not a massive amount, just a little bit. And we'll as much do a bit of a mixture of sort of spot highlighting and edge highlighting as well. And it just helps mimic the way light bounces around an object. So again, we'll just highlight it, spot highlight it down that side, spot highlight it down here. And bring it up into these areas. How's the handle holding up? Honest feedback, it's a little too long. Like, it could do maybe being about like an inch to half an inch shorter, but otherwise it's pretty damn good. But that's, again, personal preference, I feel. Easily sorted. Awesome. Just as an aside for anyone who is watching, Ember Does the Thing did actually make this painting handle here, and she is looking at making them available for sale in the not too distant future. So I'm just sort of helping her iron the kinks out of it a little bit, take it for a test run, etc. There we go. There we are. And don't be afraid to blot it away if it's not quite where you want it to be. There we go. Nice bright highlights, just like so. Again, gives off that impression that this is incredibly shiny. And there we go. And that's the green base coats In fact, green armor done all together on our little salamander here. If needs be as well, we could also tie all of it together by thinning down the warp lightning we used earlier and applying it all over as a glaze over the top. I'm probably not going to do that though, because I quite like the brightness of this. So instead, what I'm probably going to do is work on the rest of the base coats, etc. So to that end, I'm probably going to do all the metallics. And with those, I kind of want to do like a brassy gold. Which, when I was using Citadel paints at the paint intake, Balthazar gold was pretty much the one I wanted for this. But I'm actually thinking brassy brass might work quite nicely. Because it's sort of close enough to Balthazar gold, it's just a little brighter. Heck, I wonder actually. It's a little bit of a test here. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm actually going to take a little bit of tinny tin and mix some of that in, just to darken it down a bit. Oh yeah, that does actually work quite nicely. Just knocks the brassy brass back a touch, which is pretty much perfect for all the metallic areas that I'm going to use with it. So we'll start with the Aquila on the chest. And I think I'm kind of going to go for something a bit akin to the Heresy era colour scheme, but brighter. Hence the sort of lime greens. And we'll do the trim on the pauldrons with this as well. Starting with the trim because it's going to be much easier to paint over the top of that than it is to try and correct the trim afterwards. Just my little go-to secret. And I am probably going to have to go back over and correct some of the bits of green. But that shouldn't be too difficult. For now, I just want a nice even coat. Yeah, I'm going to have to move down to a smaller painting handle, just because it just keeps getting in the way otherwise. There we are. Carefully does it. Just trying to get all that bronze, whilst leaving myself as a little cleanup work to do on the green armor as possible. There we are. We'll also paint up this reliquary hanging by his crotch. Again, carefully does it. Right, and we'll hit the barrels of the flame gauntlets with this colour as well. As well as the little ignition thing at the bottom. There we are, just like so. Might need to go over that with a second coat, but for now, we should be okay. And what we'll also do is we'll actually paint up these barrels here in this color as well. There we are. Just like that. And we'll just do a quick second coat, more so for coverage and consistency than anything else. And then what we'll do afterwards is we'll hit all of that with some Agrax Earthshade and go from there. We'll probably use that as an opportunity to end the stream. I'll probably do a bit of corrective work on it outside the fact, and maybe even do some work on the other two. And we'll pick these guys back up next Thursday. There we go. Actually, before I do, what I will do is I'll finish up all the metallics. I'm thinking that might be the best way to go about it. Right. Well, in which case then, we'll get some gunmetal. I'll work a little bit of the tinny tin into that, just to give it a slightly different hue. Just makes it look a little bit warmer. By entirely means not necessary, but it's a fun little experiment, and one that seems to have paid off quite nicely. And it's not really enough that it's noticeable, but it's enough that you'd kind of, if you saw the two colours side by side, you'd know there was a bit of a difference. And just where these hoses clip into place, we'll do around those as well. And it's going to pick out a few details just around these tanks. Going to keep the vast majority of them in bronze though. Again, just trying to stay relatively consistent with the way that I'm painting these specific areas. It's really all there is to it. And there we go. And we'll do these pipes as well in this silver color. If we can actually see the seals in the suit, we'd probably do those in this color as well, but we can't, so it really doesn't matter. Now we are almost done with it. Again, we just need to finish off this tube around the back here. Give some of these areas a quick go over for like a second coat. Whoop. I'm just going to go back into the original brassy brass with a little bit of tinnitin mixed into it. And I'm just going to fix up some of these areas round the back, mostly just where the flamer tanks sit, like so. What we'll do now, we'll grab out some Agrax Earthshade. Not actually out of my headphones. That completely freaked me out there for a second. Hi, SnakeMan79. Thank you very much for the follow. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're doing well. We're just going to hit everything with a quick wash of Agrax. Not looking to absolutely drench everything in it. Primarily just to pick out a few of the little details. Add a little bit of shading and depth to the metallics that we've just been working with. And the main reason picking this colour over Null Oil is I kind of want to give it a bit of a warm look to it. Which just kind of goes quite nicely with the overall colour palette. There we are. And we're just going to work this over the pauldrons. Let that settle. Let it dry. I'll be ready to work with next time. What I'll probably do at some point off stream is get the other aggressors up to about the same point and do any tidy up work I need to do on this one before we come back to it. I might also try a bit of a glaze on the green armor as well to help smooth out some of those transitions, but I'm not super sold on that as an idea. I'll have to give it a think and see how I feel about it. But for now, I think we'll leave it there because there isn't a massive amount more I can do with it whilst all that is drying, except maybe might get away with a couple of more daft little tweaks that are just going to annoy me if I don't do them. Yep, okay, that'll do. Yeah, only other thing I'll do is I'm going to get some base coats down on the pauldrons. That way I can already start to visualize ahead of time how this model is going to look. So, for whatever reason, the Aggressors because they're considered part of the reserve company. They usually get orange shoulder pads for some reasons. Just double checking actually, just to make sure the Aggressors usually fall under the reserve companies, because I'm not 100% certain that they do. I would have thought, given the nature of them and salamanders, that they'd probably be somewhere higher up, but I don't know for certain now. Astartes fire support. Ah, right, so you've got the Pyroclasts, which are part of the third company. So I suppose, realistically speaking, they could be across all of them. Because first's veterans, second through fourth's battle company, fifth through sixth is reserve, seventh is scout. Not entirely certain that really helps me. Should be something that just has the Salamanders chapter organization. Oh no, yeah, here we go. So, first company, Fire Drakes, which are the veteran companies. Chapter Master, Master Chaplains, Chief Apothecary, Chapter Ancient Veteran Marines, Dreadnoughts, Pulsers and Land Raiders, Armorium, Librarius and Supports. Right, so Battle Companies, Pyroclasts, which is third company. Ah, okay, so yeah, there's fire support squads in each of the different companies. Okay, that's not helpful. Hmm. Yeah, it's not as clear cut as it is with the flesh tearers, because there are certain types of unit designation that fall under specific battle companies. With flesh tearers, whereas with salamanders, not quite so much. Hmm. I suppose it really depends on which one. I suppose it really depends on which company I'm mostly going to be basing them off of. Because I've got STL files for Captain Tushan. Oh, Chapter Master Tushan. And I'm very tempted to try and get a. I've been trying to get for ages now, Idrax Agatone, but it's almost impossible to actually find him anywhere. I suspect I'm probably gonna go black actually, um, and just stick with that. Yeah, yeah, I feel like that makes more sense. Yeah, no sense muddying the waters needlessly. I kind of toyed around with a test scheme at Warhammer Fest, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I should really just trust myself and stick with this one. Yeah, I just kind of need to turn off my flesh tearer's head when it comes to trying to do the battle markings and company heraldry and things like that. And of course, it does make perfect sense that salamanders would have fire support units in all of their companies. It's kind of their thing. There we go, your baseline salamander. Just going to go into that black a bit some more. We'll do a quick second coat over those pauldrons. And just because I've got it and I don't want to waste it, what we'll do as well what we'll do as well is we'll do a few little areas that would normally be in black, so things like the void suit in between the armor panels. So just little areas like the back of the knee here. I mean, really, there aren't too many of these areas on shore, just simply because of the nature of aggressors. There we are. And what we'll do as well is we'll start blocking in some of the details on these pipes. And this is where things get a little bit tricky and annoying because of the way this is angled. It does make it fairly difficult best thing to do really is just try and follow them around all the way as best as possible. It's not the easiest thing in the world, unfortunately, but best thing we can do at the moment. Because the fun thing is going to be trying to do the yellow following it round on the opposite sides. But honestly, I feel like that's a problem for next time. For now, I'm just going to leave it there. And we'll come back to this next Thursday. Probably finish it off. But to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with that. I can totally see myself doing this to an entire army. Just mostly going to be pacing myself with it though. Right, well, thank you very much for everyone who's came out and joined me. Big thank you to Garth's Workshop for the raid, and thank you to everyone who stuck around from that, if you have indeed. Huge thank you to SnakeMan79 for the follow as well. and I will be back on Saturday, same bat time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. BST, for some spooky Saturday. We're going to be playing... Ooh, one sec. We're going to be playing some Poppy Playtime at the request of a few of our viewers. So, yeah, come join me as I evacuate my bowels in the most serious way possible. Otherwise, we'll be playing some more Farm Flipper on Sunday, and then back for another week for streaming. So, huge thank you, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your night. I'm going to chuck you all at a good friend Figgy, Tabletop Fignatics. It's been a long time since I've seen him live, so I'm going to chuck you all in his direction. I won't be sticking around long because it's late. I kind of want to get to bed. Might have some cake. Just because I can. I'll see you all next time. Bye!